All right, so today we're diving into a really challenging and, let's be honest, pretty controversial philosophical viewpoint inspired by Arthur Schopenhauer. Now, the goal here isn't to get you to agree or disagree. It's really just to understand a perspective on women and nature that has been sparking debate for centuries.
Right off the bat, the text sets a pretty confrontational tone, doesn't it? It's basically saying, look, I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. The stated goal is to awaken you to what it presents as a fundamental, even if it's a difficult truth. So the whole argument really starts here, with this core idea that woman is an instrument for a force that's much bigger than herself. But what exactly is that force? Well, at the very center of this philosophy is a concept called the will of life. The best way to think about it is like this powerful, unconscious instinct. It's not about individual happiness or feelings. Nope. Its only concern is the survival and reproduction of the species. It's kind of like the hidden engine driving everything from behind the scenes.
And this is where a fundamental conflict gets set up. The text argues that a man's natural drive is to reach for things that go beyond just survival. You know, things like truth, art, greatness. But woman's instinct, in contrast, is shown as being perfectly in sync with that will of life, always pulling things back down into the biological cycle.
So when you look at it through this lens, a woman isn't seen mainly as an individual partner or a companion. She's seen as a vessel, really, an instrument that nature uses to achieve its one and only goal, making sure the species continues. Okay, so if woman is nature's instrument, then what's the consequence for man? Well, according to this text, the result is a really profound kind of blindness.
The argument here is that a woman's charm can just completely bypass a man's rational mind. His reason is described as this thin veil. It's like a fragile defense against this incredibly powerful instinctual pull.
And what happens because of this blindness? What are the consequences? The text claims that in the quest for a woman's approval, men will sacrifice pretty much everything: their money, their life's work, even their own peace of mind. They essentially place their entire sense of self-worth in her hands.
Now, this is a really important point to understand. The text frames this whole thing not as a condemnation of women who are just seen as acting on their natural instinct. No, the real criticism is aimed directly at the man who just fails to see this dynamic for what it is, the one who mistakes a biological drive for something else completely.
And that leads us perfectly into the next section, which is all about deconstructing what the text calls the illusion called love. This is where the philosophy gets really provocative. I mean, it's a question humanity has been asking forever, right? But this philosophy, it doesn't give you a romantic answer. It gives you a biological one. So what is love from this perspective? It's not some beautiful feeling to be cherished. It's a mechanism to be understood. Yeah. The text basically argues that romantic love isn't some profound spiritual connection. It's a biological trick. It's an illusion that the will of life creates for one single purpose: reproduction.
So what that means is, when a man is in love, the text claims he isn't actually seeing the real woman in front of him. What he's seeing is a phantom, an idealized projection that's been created by his own biological desire.
Okay, so after painting this pretty bleak picture, the text doesn't just leave you there. It actually proposes a solution, a way out of this blindness, and it calls this solution the path to mastery.
First, it dismisses two super common reactions, saying they're both equally flawed. On one side, you've got blind worship, which basically leads to becoming a slave to someone's approval. And on the other side, you've got hatred or resentment, which is just another way of being controlled by emotion. Both are seen as just different kinds of blindness.
So, what is the right path then? Well, it starts with awareness. You have to acknowledge the power of beauty, but without surrendering your ability to think rationally. From there, it's about holding on to your judgment, and probably most important of all, staying anchored in your own purpose, totally separate from anyone else's approval.
And this leads to the ideal that's presented in the text, the sovereign man. This guy's sense of worth isn't up and down based on a woman's gaze. It's completely internal. It's rooted in his own self-mastery and his own purpose.
This brings us all the way to the end of the message, and it's all framed as one final, very stark choice for any man who's taking this in.
The choice is laid out as a simple fork in the road. You can become a shadow, basically losing your own identity and your purpose while you follow the whims of someone else. Or you can choose to be yourself, sovereign, independent, and the master of your own path in life.
The whole core message really culminates in this one idea of radical self-governance.
The man who has mastery over his own mind, his own desires, he can't be governed by any outside force, not even by the powerful pull of nature itself.
And so the text leaves us with this final, provocative question. It's not supposed to be an easy answer, it's something to really reflect on. It forces you to confront your own motivations and decide ultimately what path you're going to walk.